Hey top percenters, well, Nintendo Direct just landed with a huge chunk of Pokemon news, and we step back into the darkness with Darkrai Garbodor. Yeah, sorry, first thing I thought of when I thought darkness. Anyway, first news from Nintendo! It seems they want to make the PC storage system in the games a real world thing now with the implementation of Pokemon Bank, which, if I'm looking at this correctly, is basically Pokemon Ranch, but instead of using a games console, you use the cloud so that you can store and receive Pokemon anywhere you happen to have an internet connection. The program itself is an application for your 3DS and will offer enough storage space for a whopping 3,000 Pokemon, so roughly one of each in 3 years' time. Talking about in 3 years' time, it has been announced that the Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Transport will be forwards compatible, meaning that future games will be able to make use of them. But what's Pokemon Transport? In brief, it's the answer to the communication problem between the DS and the 3DS. Before, it was evident that we wouldn't be able to transfer Pokemon from black and white or black to white to X and Y. Now you can with Pokemon Transport, a secondary app that you can use in conjunction with the Pokemon Bank to transfer your Pokemon from Gen 5 into Generation 6. Now, Pokemon Bank and Transport aren't going to be free. They're going to be about 500 yen in Japan, which is around $5, and Pokemon Bank is going to be subscription based. Now, some people will gripe and whine that this is just another way to get money out of the franchise, but in all seriousness, using the cloud for something of this scale isn't cheap. Asking $5 a year, in my opinion, is an incredibly small price to pay for a system that you can access at any time, from any place, and is going to remain relevant. And now we get to the fun part of the big Pokemon announcement. New burst modes! I mean new Mega Evolutions. This time starring the Kanto starters. And a lot of people have been saying that they have called this as soon as Megas were announced. And to be fair, I think we all knew this was going to happen. We'd already been shown Blaziken, so we knew that starters weren't excluded. And what starters are more iconic than the Kanto trio? So first we have Mega Venusaur. It's bigger and the flow has grown. Pretty part of the course, but heck, if it ain't broke, don't fix. And it's been given Thick Fat, so he does have some resistance to ice and fire, even if they are still his big weaknesses. Next there's Mega Charizard, and right away you can tell that this isn't Sugimori the designer guy. His build and features are very reminiscent of the Gen 5 dragons, notably Haxorus. Do I think that's a bad thing? Heck no. It's a great design and has actually done a great job helping Charizard lose that belly that's been haunting him all these years. Mega Charizard's new ability is Drought, meaning that he'll instantly boost his attacks when he goes Mega. And finally we have Mega Blastoise, and out of the three I have to say this is my personal favourite redesign. He actually looks like he can use the cannons now. Before, both cannons pointed out sideways, meaning you were pretty safe if you stood in front of him. Now there's nowhere to run. He also gained the ability Mega Launcher, which boosts his moves. Interesting note on Mega Launcher, it states to boost his moves, not his attacks. Does this mean that stat modifiers get a boost as well? Or is it just misworded? Guess we'll have to wait and see. And now onto our main feature, Darkrai Garbodor. The deck that everyone's been mentioning to me, and I'll be honest, I'd already recorded and uploaded my last episode before watching the Klitzinski Open. I like to leave myself some time before launch to make sure that nothing gets in the way of you guys receiving the episode on time. So let's look at how the deck runs. First we have Darkrai as our key attacker, and I've mentioned in the past how he was kept alive by being able to use Hypnotoxic Laser better than any other deck. But then Genesect Virizion came along and said, nope to your fun. And I'll be blunt, I thought that would spell the end for Darkrai. But some bright players took a new Darkrai variant to Worlds and saw some moderate success, but then it was taken to the Klitzinski Open by Lex Diondre, and this amazing senior managed to win the whole thing with it. So already we can see that this deck is going to see play, but here's what baffled me when I first heard people saying Darkrai Garbodor. I thought it seriously couldn't work. One of Darkrai's greatest strengths was his ability Dark Cloak, which allowed Darkrai to give anything with dark energy attached free retreat. But this is where the real beauty of the combination of Garbodor and Darkrai comes from. Even though you lose Darkrai's ability, your opponent loses all of their abilities, meaning that you don't have to contest with Keldeo's Rush In, Blastoise's Deluge, Genesect's Red Signal, or Deoxys's Power Connect. So you lose one ability, whereas your opponent loses all of them. So the overall trade-off is in your favour. Darkrai also doesn't lose the ability to retreat for free completely. Running Garbodor for Garbotoxin, you'll need to run tools. and the tool of choice for today is Floatstone with a side order of Darkclaw. But let's focus on Floatstone for now. Floatstone is a tool card that offers the same advantage of Darkrai's Dark Cloak. Whatever it's attached to has free retreat. This is key to keeping your Garbodor out of the active spot, as if your opponent catches it up, they'll have to knock it out in one shot, or next turn you can have Garbodor jog back to the bench and keep applying pressure. Now, I also mentioned Darkclaw, and with very good reason. It changes numbers, making 3 shots into 2 shots and making moves that might require 2 catches only require 1. Every time you Night Sphere, you're going to be placing 30 damage on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Now, most of the X's used in the current format have 170 hit points, meaning that normally you'd need to Night Sphere them on the bench 3 times before dropping a catcher and finishing them off in the active position. But with Darkclaw, you can hit an X on the bench twice, putting them on 60 damage, and then use catcher for a final 110 to claim your 2 prizes 1 turn sooner. The numbers also work better with the current active, as 2 Night Spears on the same active will give you a knock it there as well, so in a perfect world that would be 4 prizes within 3 turns. Darkclaw also helps with Plasma Kyurem, as you can drop 30 damage onto the bench, and next turn use catcher and knock it out before it can start to do what it does best. So we don't necessarily lose our free retreat, and we can manipulate our damage output to make it slightly more favourable. What else does Darkrai have? Well, we still have Sableye and his ability to pick up and reuse item cards. So you don't have to worry about ditching catchers and lasers with Juniper in your early game, as Sableye can grab them back. You can also feel free to run slimmer lines on tech items, as you don't have to worry about drawing into them time and time again. As soon as you see one, you will have access to it at will. But what tech items can we run to help our chances? Well, the first card to spring to mind is Switch. Even though we run Floatstone, sometimes you just don't have a spare Floatstone in hand, and your opponent might not catch your out to bench Garbodor if it has Floatstone attached, and they can't guarantee the knockout, but they can always catch out a Darkrai that isn't ready to attack, and try to take advantage of your own power locking. A Switch in this situation could be just the card you need. And remember, you only need to see the Switch, and you gain access to it. Next we can tech Enhanced Hammer. Now, this card doesn't do too much against Genesect or Blastoise, but it does help against Plasma. And as I said, this card should be here as a tech. So I'd personally say no more 2 unless you're expecting to be playing in an exceptionally Plasma heavy meta. And against Plasma, you should be able to stall out their energy acceleration and potentially stop Thundurus, depending on how lucky and how well you can play your hammer blows. The last tech card I want to talk about is Tool Scrapper. Now, this might seem a bit obvious with the format we're heading into, but cards like Silver Bangle and Eviolite can lead to some annoying numbers. There's not much point having Darkclaw if Eviolite neutralizes it, and you don't want your opponent scoring easy knockouts against you because of Bangle. Tool Scrapper is a quick and easy solution to these problems, and the best part to it is the fact that it states up to 2 tools. Meaning that if your opponent has 1 tool card in play, you can play Scrapper and not have to pop your own tools. And there we have it, a quick overview of Darkrai Garbodor. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and what are your thoughts on the deck? Let me know down below, and until next time, I'm Naruto Joey, you guys will top percent. Laters.